Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to my cozy corner of the internet. This is Nephilim VA bringing you the second chapter of After the Fall, written by Alex_is_writing_again on AO3. Re-recording this fic has been akin to talking to a friend that I haven't talked to in a while. It's very refreshing. I'm coming to this with an open mind, so I really do wonder what will happen next. Before we begin, here are the trigger warnings. This fanfiction is for mature audiences, with a trigger warning for attempted suicide and drug use. If that isn't your style, then I recommend Humans Make Surprisingly Good Pillows, written by DogBlue9 on AO3. It can be found on my channel! Now it's time to begin, into a world where UA is a university, and you enter at the age of 18, but there are 3 years of school, where canon divergence is the name of the game. Now I implore you to sit back and relax, whilst I read to you. Chapter 2. Floating. The 2 days after Izuku was let out of the hospital were the best 2 days of his life so far. Katsuki was actually talking to him, and they were becoming friends again. People at Aldrea Middle School, students and teachers alike, were stunned by their sudden closeness. All of a sudden, the two were inseparable. The two boys both seemed slightly uncomfortable around each other, but they refused to leave each other. Per Katsuki's command, the two had been working out together, trying to strengthen Izuku's entire body so he would have a better chance at the UA exams. The first day that Izuku returned to school, the Monday after he had jumped, nearly everyone was stunned when they attempted to bully Izuku and were met with an explosion in their face or a string of curses as Izuku held Katsuki back. Upon Izuku's request, Katsuki hadn't corrected anyone when they called Izuku quirkless. But just because Izuku didn't want them to know he had a quirk didn't mean Katsuki was going to let them get away with saying mean shit to his new oldest best friend. Fucking sheep, all of them! Katsuki spat as the 7th bully of the day had walked away from them with a new scorch mark on his shirt. He turned to Izuku, fury still plastered on his face. They only treat you like this because of me. Izuku tilted his head, puzzled. Do you really believe that, Ka-chan? He asked, pausing his analysis of the bully's quirk. It had been triggered when Katsuki shot off an explosion at him, causing a flower near the boy's foot to wither, and pursing his lips together. Tch, of course, Deku! He gave Izuku a small glare for questioning him. They all started with this shit after I did. Katsuki balled his hands into fists, and abruptly shoved them into his pockets. Ka-chan, you started almost as soon as you found out I was quirkless, and you were the first person I told. Obviously you would have been the first one to be mean to me about it, but that doesn't mean they do it just because you do. Izuku clicked his pen and shoved it in his notebook. And besides, when you insult me, it's about a variety of things. Katsuki looked up from the dead flower on the ground that he had been staring at. They only ever insult you for being quirkless? Katsuki was curious. Sure, he knew that a good portion of the insults thrown Izuku's way were about his lack of a quirk, but he never cared enough about what anyone else was saying to actually listen to any of the comments they made. He also had never realized that there were so many people targeting Izuku each day. Katsuki was curious. Sure, he knew that a good portion of the insults thrown Izuku's way were about his lack of a quirk, but he never cared enough about what anyone else was saying to actually listen to any of the comments they made. He also had never realized that there were so many people targeting Izuku each day. After the fourth person, Katsuki had asked Izuku why there were so many people saying shit to him today, and he simply shrugged and informed Katsuki that this was actually less than usual, most likely because they had started to hear about Katsuki defending him. Well, I mean, sometimes they pair it with something else. Scrawny, quirkless loser, your dad left because you don't have a quirk, stuff like that, but yeah, it's always about me being quirkless. Oh. Katsuki didn't know what to say. He wanted to say that they were all idiots for bullying him just for being quirkless, but he realized, to the outside world, it appeared that he had been doing the exact same thing. Izuku being quirkless was just the most convenient thing for Katsuki to use to push him away, as well as later on being the entire reason he felt the need to keep Izuku away from him. The third day back, Wednesday, was when shit decided to hit the fan again. Katsuki, who was still friends with his goons, they just weren't allowed to say anything or do anything mean to Izuku, decided to walk home with them, since he would be seeing Izuku in less than 2 hours. Izuku and Katsuki's parents had been delighted to learn that the two were becoming friends again, and insisted on having a meal together to catch up. Izuku, newly invincible thanks to Katsuki's threats towards the other students, had decided to walk home as well. He left about 15 minutes after Katsuki had, to give him some space. They had been spending all of their time at school together, and he was afraid that if he didn't try to give him some space, Katsuki would get tired of him and change his mind. On his way home, Izuku was deep in thought about one of his schoolmates' quirks, when someone bumped into him from behind. He turned around, ready to shout out a million different apologies, but instead, he let out a startled squeak and a rather loud, "What the heck?" He kicked his feet, trying to find the ground again, as he looked at the girl in front of him. The girl wore a shocked expression, framed by short brown hair.
"Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't paying attention to where I was going and oh!"
She stopped mid-sentence, suddenly remembering something.
"I'm going to put you down now. Get ready!"
She warned before touching the pads of her fingers together, which resulted in Izuku landing, slightly too hard on his feet.
"Sorry about that,"
the girl said, fidgeting with her sleeves. "Oh, it's okay. I was just a little confused at first," Izuku laughed.
"Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to use my quirk on you. I tripped and didn't realize I was walking so close behind you, and I kinda just bumped into you."
Izuku wondered how exactly she triggered her quirk for it to happen on accident.
"Anyway, this is my stop,"
she said, gesturing to a restaurant next to them. He wanted to stay and ask the girl about her quirk, but he needed to get home. His mum would be worried if he was late. Plus, this girl clearly had somewhere to be. "Thank you for putting me back down. Have a good day," he said, waving goodbye to her as she grabbed the door handle.
"See you around,"
she said before closing the door behind herself. Izuku stood there for a moment. He always loved meeting people with cool quirks, and with her having a quirk that cool, Izuku wished that "see you around" had been a promise instead of a pleasantry. He started walking again, wondering if he would get to his house before Katsuki did. Izuku typically walked twice as fast as Katsuki, although that wasn't very surprising when the boy walked like a gremlin. After a few more minutes of walking, Izuku could see a crowd of people forming, and some smoke coming from the street between 2 blocks. They were yelling. More and more people gathered to watch, and Izuku picked up the pace, wanting to see what was going on. If it was a pro-hero and a villain fighting, he definitely didn't want to miss that. The closer he got, the more details he could make out. It wasn't a fight. No one was really moving, but everyone was yelling. There was a villain and multiple heroes just standing there. It was the sludge villain. Izuku swore under his breath. It had to be his fault that the villain was there. He must have made All Might drop the bottles. Izuku weaseled his way through the crowd, trying to get a closer look. The villain had someone. They were struggling and attempting to yell, only to be cut off by the villain and... Holy shit. Izuku's eyes widened in fear. "Ka-chan," he whispered before running. He didn't even mean to, it just happened. "No, you idiot," one of the heroes yelled at Izuku. "You're gonna get yourself killed." But Izuku couldn't even hear him, because that was Ka-chan, and nothing else mattered because he was in danger. His feet were going and it was like he had no control over them, and then all of a sudden he was there. He was there and he was clawing at the sludge and grabbing handfuls of it. He tried to pull Katsuki out, but the only part of his body that was exposed was part of his face. His mouth and nose were covered. He was suffocating. "Ka-chan!" Izuku screamed, over and over again, clawing and tearing and kicking because he needed to help him. He couldn't breathe, damn it! Someone had to get him out, so he clawed and grabbed harder and more desperately until he heard someone land hard next to him. All Might was standing next to Izuku. "I really am pathetic," he said. "What?" "Just 2 weeks ago I told you the trait that made a great champion, but I see now how I wasn't living up to my own ideals," All Might yelled out over all of the noise. What the fuck was that supposed to mean? And why did Izuku care? Katsuki was literally suffocating, and this man was talking about not living up to his own ideals. What the hell? "Pros are always risking their lives. That's the true test of a hero," he yelled out before Detroit smashing the sludge villain's ass out of existence so hard he made it fucking rain. The heroes and paramedics rushed around checking on everyone who was injured, and scolding Izuku for being so reckless, and putting his own life in danger. It was fair. What he did was stupid, but he would never apologize for trying to save Katsuki. Once the paramedics were finished with checking on Katsuki, the two left, walking silently to Izuku's house together. It was okay, walking in silence, but Izuku felt the need to say something, anything, just to make sure Katsuki at least knew that he could talk to him if he wanted. "Are you okay?" was all he said. Katsuki looked at him with an unreadable expression. "Yeah," he said quietly. Izuku instantly knew he was lying. Katsuki is never quiet. "And thanks for trying to save me and shit out there, but that was really fucking stupid of you to do." "You're welcome, Ka-chan," Izuku beamed at him. He hadn't been expecting Katsuki to thank him. "And yeah, I know it was stupid, but it was you and..." His sentence was cut off suddenly, with a very loud, "I am here!" Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all the support you have given me. All Might monologuing and Izuku just being confused was a mood. Also, it's nice to see Katsuki seeing the extent of what Izuku goes through on a daily basis. How has your week been? I hope it's been good. And make sure you remember to give your loved ones a big hug when you see them. Who knows if they truly need it. All credits go to the original creator of this fanfiction, Alex_is_writing_again on AO3. I would highly appreciate it if you gave this video a like and you subscribe to the channel and you hit the notification bell to be notified of when I next upload. There is no pressure to do so though. Thank you for visiting my cozy corner of the internet. Keep growing my sunflowers. Mwah.